It's 8:40 on this Wednesday, December 29th. Good morning and welcome to the Hometown Morning Show with Tori and Kyle. In studio guest, it's Susan Owen from Owen Patterson and Owen Managing Partner. Good morning. Welcome. Happy holidays.
Good morning and happy holidays to you.
So that's exactly what I want to talk about first. I know there's a story to tell, and I want to hear about this story, which is kind of fascinating because I read about the story that you're going to tell. But first, let's talk about the holidays, especially this week. A lot of people are visiting with family and friends, and accidents can happen, and I don't think we think about that. I think over the last 2 years, all we're thinking about is COVID, which can also happen. So you have to be careful. But accidents happen, household accidents. And I see that things like putting things on the top shelf when we're going to have babies around or children around or even adults that are not quite as stable as others, very dangerous to do. What would you say, being a lawyer and being this managing partner at Owen Patterson Owen, what would have you seen over the years that have been these big problems over the holidays?
There will be a situation where, exactly as you said, people want to put things up high so that small children don't get injured. However, what can happen then is that they'll fall down. And while homeowners generally have homeowners insurance to cover that, you don't want to be subject to a claim, and you certainly don't want to have a family member or loved one injured. So don't do that. Put it in a closet. Have a closet that locks. Anything that might be dangerous for a small child, put away, but don't necessarily put up. Now, in my house, I'm also a huge proponent of all of the earthquake preparedness items that keep cabinets from falling over. I have, as we've talked about before, I have so many children that were in such a big age range. My house has been baby-proofed for years.
Let's talk about that for a second. If people, our listeners, don't know who you are, they should, because you are an amazing, beyond just what you do, which is a managing partner at Owen Patterson Owen, which I love because, I'm women power. Okay, I'm all about women power, so I love that.
Go girl.
Right? But you're also the mother of six.
Correct.
Six children. I can't even wrap my mind around being a mother of six and being a managing partner of a law firm. Can you just, in a couple of seconds, just tell us how we do that? How do we achieve that kind of standard? You've set the bar pretty high here.
It's a lot of organization and a lot of help. So my youngest one and my oldest one are 21 years apart. So I was so thankful by the time, my little ones came along that they had that older brother and sisters to help me.
A little bit of built-in babysitters and
playmates.
And playmates.
We often joke, though, that my youngest daughter is like an only child with 7 parents. So
that's very true. It's very, I just have to say, it's extremely, you've set the bar high, and I'm not quite sure how the rest of us are going to reach it. That being said, let's continue to talk about the holidays. Always important to plan a ride in advance. Ride sharing. Why is that so important? Do we get a little tipsy? Is that what happens?
Most definitely, and especially on New Year's Eve. For example, when my kids were, now they are older, so I expect them to be responsible on their own. But if they were going to be at a New Year's Eve party, I had them spend the night. Not because they were necessarily doing anything wrong. I didn't want them on the road. The bars may be open later, or even if they close at 2 a.m., nothing good happens after midnight.
And I can't understand, Susie, I don't understand how that even in this day, in 2021, where we have Uber, we have Lyft, we have, there are groups that do rides just for free during this time of the year. I still don't understand why anyone would get behind the wheel of a car, but it still happens?
It still does, and it's so sad and so unnecessary. There is no reason for anyone to get behind the wheel after having drinks. And I take that to an extreme in my personal life just because I did have all these kids watching me. So if I even had one drink,
Mm-hmm.
I would make sure I had a designated driver.
Because you just don't know. What if you had nothing in your stomach and you just had the one drink? You don't know. You completely can be impaired and don't even realize it.
That's exactly right.
Fireworks. What's up with the fireworks? Now, it's interesting because I thought fireworks were for 4th of July, but apparently I'm seeing more and more as I live in this valley. Everybody gets the fireworks out for the new year. So how is that dangerous to the children or even adults?
One of the things that comes to mind the most about the fireworks today, for me, is that where I live, we hear fireworks every single night. And a lot of the people in this community have been traumatized by shootings.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so every time fireworks start going off, there is mass anxiety that kids and adults are thinking, is that another shooting going on? The other thing is, despite the rain, recently, this is a very dry area, and fireworks are a fire hazard. We need we need to pay attention to that.
We need to be aware. You don't.
Absolutely.
It's like throwing a burning cigarette out your car. You don't do that anymore. Like that's long. The 70s are gone. You have to be aware, and you have to know what the reality is, especially living in a desert that usually is water deprived. Like you said, it's only been the last week that we've been getting some rain and some relief.
Exactly. Another thing that causes a lot of injuries during this time of year is because you do have, I don't want to say strangers, but you do have people who are not always in your home present. If you have dogs, they might be around children and not be used to it. And you might be that owner who never expected your dog to bite someone else, and there you are facing a claim. So make sure that your dogs are in a contained area. Don't let them be around little children. You're asking for an accident to happen.
Absolutely. A little child doesn't know. Look at the dog. Let's pull its tail. Boom. The dog's not used. Of course, the dog usually behaves well with people who know how to treat it, but a small child might do something like that. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about real quickly is there have been statistics that show New Year's Day is often a day of car theft. Both the actual car and being burglarized inside, like whatever you might have in your car. Do you have any insight on that? Like why that happens on New Year's Day?
Well,
Is it that we're all hungover and we're just not paying attention?
Well, I think from that perspective, we think if we're doing that safe thing and staying home, we think that our cars are going to be safe on our property. That is so not the case. Ironically, we used to keep our car keys in the cars. And the day after Thanksgiving a few years ago, not only were all of our cars broken into, but one of the cars had all my Christmas presents in it, hiding them from my children. And all those Christmas presents were stolen in one of the cars. So when I was telling all of my kids, go out, make sure that the cars are still there, our oldest daughter came in and said, my car is gone.
Uh-oh.
So it was actually found right around New Year's Day at, locally, but completely stripped.
Completely stripped.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful. Again, it's one of those things where you pay attention. There's still theft. There are still accidents that can happen. But you're the one who can help us out. If there is an accident or a problem, Owen Patterson, you are there to help us. You have a team. Not only yourself, but you have a whole team. You want to tell us a little bit about your team?
We have 5 attorneys in the office, and every one of them is a specialist. They know what they're doing, and they know it like the back of their hand. We have a wonderful staff. Some of my employees have been there as long as 20 years. And again, they know what they're doing. What I often tell people is even if it's not a injury or an accident, call me and I'll point you in the right direction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have some of the settlements that you and your firm have been absolutely huge for these victims. Tell us, just give us an example of one fantastic. Like there's a list, and we wouldn't have enough time to talk about this list. Tell us just one thing that you are proud of, maybe one settlement that's just over the top.
Oh my gosh. It's hard to pick just one.
It is. You have a list. I know.
Recently we've had the USC settlement, which was for all the claimants for $1 billion, not a million, $1 billion
billion with a B, billion with a B.
These women were victimized in the gynecologist's office at USC. So that, for me as a parent and as a woman, that is something we absolutely had to do, and I do feel very proud of that. There are other ones, of course, whether it's representing elders who have been abused in assisted living facilities.
Mm-hmm.
These are such vulnerable people. They need our help.
They do. And we, as a woman, and because guys don't understand this, when you go into the gyno office for your yearly or a problem, that you expect to be, you expect it to be secure and private, and you are so vulnerable. They literally give you a paper gown to cover you up. I mean, you are so exposed. So the fact that happened and that you came and helped these women from such trauma and at least some kind of closure with all of this is truly amazing, and I thank you for that. Again, women power. We're going to wrap this up by hearing a story. I want to hear this story about Y2K, the meaning of Y2K. Can you tell us this story?
Well, so interestingly, it was right at this time of year. My family was going on a camping trip. I was pulling a trailer in a large SUV, and all of a sudden, that trailer got picked up by the wind at the 514 overchange, swung me all around the freeway, and I ended up over the guardrail.
Whoa.
with 3 tires up and over the guardrail. I had my 2 littlest kids in the car with me who had been sleeping. This was at around 4:00 in the morning because we wanted to get a start before any traffic. And so terrifying, because had my kids opened the door on the guardrail side, they would have fallen over. And thankfully they didn't. They opened, the side closest to the freeway. I was actually thinking about this morning because I think about it pretty often, and it was several years ago. And so I feel like I understand when people feel like they can't handle things when they've been in an accident. I was the same. I didn't even go to a doctor. Thankfully, my kids were seen by a doctor because my husband made sure that they were okay. But I was in such shock from it. I would have loved to, I do love to be able to pull on that experience to say, I understand. Let me help you. Let me take care of all of these details. One of the other things that was really cool about this is the number of people on the road who came to help. And one man took his leather jacket and wrapped it around one of my kids. Another person gave a blanket from their car. It was such an outpouring of caring.
There are good people.
And I was thinking about that because that was actually something positive that came out of that experience.
And now you're here to help people and not only sympathize but empathize with them and understand where they're coming from. There's a lot of, anytime anyone's in some kind of accident, there is a trauma that you have to deal with. Now, if you are in an accident, you can contact OPO. It's 888 OPO WIN or WINS.
WINS with an S, WINS.
OPOlaw.com. We've been talking to Susan Owen, the managing partner of Owen Patterson Owen. Susan, it's always a pleasure. Susie, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
We'll talk very soon. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Go
You already know
2022.
Salt Creek Grill has the best.